You worked 40 years for this. You saved, sacrificed, and planned for the day you could finally rest. But in some states, retirement has become mathematically impossible. Property taxes that double overnight, healthcare costs that bankrupt even careful planners, and living expenses that outpace every pension check you receive. Today, we are counting down 15 states where retirement has become a trap. And these are not obscure places nobody has heard of. These are states where millions of Americans already live, millions who are already caught inside. Your state might be one of them. Number 15, Hawaii. Paradise comes with a price tag most retirees simply cannot afford. The postcards show crystal blue waters and palm trees swaying in the tropical breeze. What they never show is the financial devastation, waiting for anyone who tries to retire here on a fixed income. The median home price in Hawaii now exceeds $835,000. Let that sink in for a moment. Even if you somehow manage to pay off a modest home before retirement, the property taxes and maintenance costs would drain your savings within years. But most retirees here do not own, they rent. And rental prices have exploded beyond recognition. A one-bedroom apartment in Honolulu averages over $2,100 per month. That is more than most Social Security checks cover entirely. The cost of living sits 88% above the national average. Groceries cost nearly double what you would pay on the mainland. A gallon of milk runs over $6. Electricity bills routinely exceed $300 monthly because everything runs on imported oil. Healthcare premiums rank among the highest in America, and specialists often require expensive flights to the mainland for treatment. Retirees who dreamed of ocean views are draining savings accounts at terrifying speed. That pension check that seemed comfortable on the mainland barely covers rent here. Walk through any retirement community in Hawaii, and you will hear the same stories repeated. Seniors working part-time jobs at grocery stores and tourist shops just to stay afloat. People who saved for decades discovering their nest egg evaporates in paradise. The state promised tropical retirement. It delivered tropical bankruptcy. And thousands of seniors are now trapped, unable to afford to stay, unable to afford to leave, watching their life savings disappear into the Pacific sunset. Number 14, California. The Golden State has become a golden cage for retirees. For decades, California sold the dream: sunshine, opportunity, world-class healthcare, and endless possibility. Millions of Americans built their entire lives here. They raised families, bought homes, and planned to retire in the state they loved. But something changed, and now those same people are fleeing in record numbers. Property taxes on reassessed homes can devastate fixed incomes overnight. California's Proposition 13 protected longtime homeowners for years, but the moment you move, downsize, or inherit property, the reassessment hits like a freight train. Seniors who sold larger family homes expecting to pocket equity and live comfortably in smaller places discovered their new property. Tax bills tripled. The median home price hovers near $780,000 statewide. In desirable retirement areas like San Diego or the Bay Area, prices soar past $1 million. Healthcare premiums rank among the highest in America. A basic Medicare supplement plan costs hundreds more monthly than the same coverage in Arizona or Nevada. California lost over 340,000 residents in a single year. That is not a typo. 340,000 people packed up and left. Many of them were retirees who simply could not afford to stay in the state where they spent their entire working lives. Drive through retirement communities in the Inland Empire. Count the for sale signs. Talk to the neighbors still hanging on. They will tell you about friends who left for Texas, Arizona, Nevada, anywhere the math actually works. But that is nothing compared to what is coming. The next few states might shock you, especially if you thought the Midwest or Northeast were safe havens for retirement. At number 13, New York. Taxed into exile. That is the only way to describe what is happening to retirees in the Empire State. New York's combined state and local tax burden is the highest in America, at 12.7% of income. For someone on a fixed retirement income, that is not just painful, it is devastating. Property taxes average over $9,000 annually across the state. In the suburbs of New York City, Long Island, Westchester, and parts of New Jersey that function as New York bedroom communities, property taxes on modest three-bedroom homes routinely exceed $15,000 per year. That is over $1,200 every single month just to keep a roof over your head that you supposedly already own. The state income tax does not exempt retirement income the way many other states do. Your pension gets taxed. Your 401k withdrawals get taxed. Even portions of Social Security get taxed for higher earners. Every dollar you saved gets a smaller and smaller piece taken by Albany. And what do retirees get in return? Crumbling infrastructure upstate, hospitals closing in rural communities, a cost of living that makes every purchase feel like highway robbery, heating bills in Buffalo and Syracuse that can exceed $400 monthly in winter. Entire retirement communities upstate sit half empty as lifelong New Yorkers pack up and leave for Florida, the Carolinas, or anywhere taxes do not consume their golden years. Walk through any small town in the Catskills or Adirondacks. Count the empty storefronts. Notice the aging population getting older while young families flee for opportunities elsewhere. This is what happens when a state taxes its residents into oblivion and offers nothing in return. The Empire State promised culture, opportunity, and world-class services. It delivers tax bills that push seniors toward the exit every single day. Now at number 12, Massachusetts. The Bay State built its reputation on history, education, and healthcare. Boston's world-renowned hospitals attract patients from around the globe. The state pioneered healthcare reform that became a model for the nation. Surely this would be an ideal place to retire, with access to the best medical care available. But access means nothing if you cannot afford it. Massachusetts seniors face some of the highest insurance premiums in America. Even with Medicare, supplement plans and prescription coverage cost substantially more than national averages. A serious illness can wipe out decades of savings, despite having what most would consider good insurance. Medical bankruptcy does not discriminate. It happens to careful planners in Massachusetts every single day. The median home price exceeds $600,000 statewide. In Greater Boston, prices soar past $800,000 for modest single-family homes. Property taxes keep climbing year after year with no end in sight. Towns justify increases by pointing to excellent schools. But retirees do not use schools. They are paying for services they will never access, while struggling to afford services they desperately need. Boston's charm fades fast when your heating bill arrives in January. Massachusetts winters are brutal, and heating costs can add $300 to $500 monthly during cold months. That charming old colonial home with original windows, it is hemorrhaging heat and money simultaneously. The hospitals might be world-class, but they are useless if you cannot afford to live long enough to use them. Is it not strange how states promise world-class healthcare, but never mention that retirees can barely afford to use it? What do you think they are really selling? Coming in at number 11, New Jersey. Welcome to the property tax capital of America. New Jersey holds the unfortunate distinction of having the highest property taxes in the entire nation. And it is not even close. The average property tax bill exceeds $9,800 annually. In wealthy suburbs, bills regularly top $15,000 to $20,000 per year. Let that math sink in for a moment. A retiree who paid off their home 30 years ago, who owns it free and clear, still pays over $800 every single month just in property taxes. That is more than many Americans pay for rent in affordable states. You could own a home outright in New Jersey and still face housing costs that crush a fixed income. The state justifies these taxes by pointing to excellent schools, low crime rates, and proximity to New York City and Philadelphia. But retirees do not need schools. They do not commute to Manhattan anymore. They need affordable housing and accessible health care, neither of which New Jersey provides at reasonable cost. Seniors are selling family homes at record rates, homes where they raised children, celebrated holidays, and built decades of memories. They are not selling because they want to leave. They are selling because staying has become financially impossible. Every year the tax bill grows. Every year the fixed income stays the same. Eventually the math stops working. Drive through any New Jersey suburb and count the for sale signs with retired and relocating in the listing descriptions. This is what betrayal looks like. A state that took property taxes for decades and now offers nothing to the seniors who paid them. The American dream of owning your home outright means nothing when the state takes it piece by piece through endless taxation. New Jersey retirees are not homeowners. They are renters paying the government instead of a landlord. Number 10, Connecticut. Wealthy on paper, bleeding residents in reality. Connecticut's median household income ranks among the highest in America. The state is home to hedge fund headquarters, Fortune 500 companies, and some of the wealthiest communities in the nation. Greenwich and Westport feature mansions that cost more than most Americans will earn in a lifetime. But behind that veneer of wealth, middle-class retirees are drowning. Property taxes average $7,400 annually statewide, but that average masks enormous variation. In many towns, modest homes carry tax bills exceeding $10,000 per year. The state income tax does not exempt retirement income, meaning your pension and 401k withdrawals face taxation that compounds every year. Healthcare costs rank in the top 10 nationally. Insurance premiums keep climbing, while coverage keeps shrinking. Hospitals in rural areas have closed or reduced services, forcing seniors to travel significant distances for basic care. The specialists are in Hartford or New Haven, not in the small towns where retirees actually live. Connecticut lost over 13,000 residents last year alone. That might sound small compared to California or New York, but Connecticut is tiny. Those losses represent a significant percentage of the population, and the departures skew heavily toward retirees heading south. Teachers, municipal workers, and small business owners who spent careers serving Connecticut communities now discover their pensions do not stretch far enough. They are leaving behind children and grandchildren because the alternative is financial ruin. Entire neighborhoods now feature homes for sale, with owners who simply gave up fighting the math. The mansions of Greenwich mask the quiet desperation of middle-class seniors who cannot afford to age in place. Connecticut promised prestige and stability. It delivered tax bills and impossible choices. Most people have no idea this is happening in their own state, and it gets worse. Stick around because number 1 is the state everyone thinks is safe, and they are completely wrong. At number 9, Oregon, no sales tax. That is Oregon's calling card, the hook that draws people in. No sales tax sounds incredible, especially coming from states where every purchase adds 8 or 9% to the bill. Retirees flock here thinking they have found a loophole, a way to stretch fixed incomes further. But Oregon takes its pound of flesh elsewhere, and it hits retirees harder than almost anyone. Oregon taxes retirement income at rates up to 9.9%. That is nearly 10% of your pension, 401k withdrawals, and even Social Security for higher earners going directly to Salem. The state that promises no sales tax delivers income taxes that devastate fixed incomes. The median home in Portland exceeds $500,000. Even in smaller cities like Eugene or Salem, prices have climbed far beyond what retirement savings can comfortably support. Property taxes keep rising every year, and Oregon's unique land use laws have restricted housing supply, driving prices higher and higher. Healthcare costs rank above national averages. The famous Oregon rain means months of gray skies and higher rates of seasonal depression, which translates to mental health costs that insurance rarely covers adequately. The no sales tax promise was a bait and switch. Retirees save a few dollars on groceries and lose thousands on income taxes. Drive through any Portland suburb and count the for sale signs. Many belong to seniors who fell for Oregon's marketing and discovered the true cost too late. Now, number 8, Illinois, the poster child for pension crisis. If you want to understand what happens when a state makes promises it cannot keep, look at Illinois. The numbers are staggering and terrifying for anyone, depending on government to honor its commitments. Illinois carries over $140 billion in unfunded pension liabilities. That is billion with a B. The state has promised retirement benefits to teachers, police officers, firefighters, and state workers that it simply cannot afford to pay. The money is not there. The math does not work. And somebody has to pay the price. That somebody is current residents, including retirees who already paid their dues. Property taxes in Chicago suburbs routinely exceed $10,000 annually on modest homes. Towns desperate for revenue keep hiking rates because the state cannot meet its obligations. Schools threaten closure, services get cut, and property owners, many of them seniors on fixed incomes, foot the bill for decades of political mismanagement. The state's credit rating hovers just above junk status. Illinois bonds are considered barely better than gambling. That might sound like abstract financial news, but it translates directly to higher borrowing costs, reduced services, and an endless cycle of tax increases to cover the gap. Retirees who depend on state pensions live in fear of cuts that seem inevitable. The promises made decades ago may not survive the mathematical reality of today. Meanwhile, those who saved privately watch their home values stagnate while taxes climb. Illinois real estate is not an investment. It is a liability. The exodus is not coming. It is already here. Illinois loses residents every single year, and retirees lead the departure. They are heading to Indiana, Wisconsin, Tennessee. Anywhere the state government is not drowning in debt, it can never repay. Illinois promised stability for those who served its communities. It delivered betrayal on a scale that should make every American question what their state is really promising. If this helps you understand what is really happening in the economy, hit subscribe. It is free, and it means you will never miss these breakdowns. Number 7, Alaska. The permanent fund dividend checks make headlines every year. Free money just for living in Alaska. The state shares oil wealth with every resident. It sounds too good to be true. That is because it is. The dividend check, usually somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 annually, gets swallowed by Alaska's crushing cost of living before it even arrives. Healthcare costs rank among the highest in America. A simple doctor's visit can cost 3 times the national average. Specialists often require expensive flights to Seattle or other major cities because Alaska simply does not have the medical infrastructure to support its population. Groceries in remote areas run 30 to 50% above national prices. Fresh produce is a luxury. Basic staples cost more than restaurant meals in other states. Heating a home through an Alaskan winter can drain $500 or more monthly. And Alaskan winters last 6 months or longer. The isolation factor compounds every problem. Retirees who chased adventure find themselves cut off from family, from medical care, from basic services that other Americans take for granted. A medical emergency in rural Alaska is not just frightening. It can be fatal simply due to distance from treatment. The permanent fund dividend is a marketing gimmick that attracts people who do not understand the full picture. By the time they realize the true cost of Alaskan living, they have already uprooted their lives and spent their savings relocating. The last frontier is becoming the last place seniors can afford. Unless you have substantial wealth beyond normal retirement savings, Alaska will drain you dry while you watch the Northern Lights and wonder how everything went so wrong. Why do you think politicians keep making pension promises they know they cannot keep? Do they think nobody is paying attention? Or do they just not care what happens after they are gone? At number 6, Vermont. Quaint villages, covered bridges, and fall foliage that draws tourists from around the world. Vermont sells a fantasy of simple living, small-town charm, and escape from urban chaos. Retirees imagine cozy farmhouses, friendly neighbors, and peaceful days watching leaves change color. The fantasy hides a financial nightmare. Vermont's property taxes average over $5,000 annually, high for rural New England, and the state taxes retirement income aggressively. Unlike many states that exempt pensions or Social Security, Vermont treats your retirement savings as just another source of income to be taxed. Healthcare options are severely limited. Vermont is the second least populous state in America, and it simply does not have the medical infrastructure that retirees need. Specialists often require hours of travel. Complicated conditions mean trips to Boston or other major cities for treatment. The nearest hospital might be 90 minutes away on winding mountain roads that become treacherous in winter. Speaking of winter, Vermont winters are brutal. Heating costs consume retirement budgets from November through April. Those charming old farmhouses with their original character also feature original insulation, which is to say, almost none. Energy bills during cold months can exceed $400 or $500 monthly. The median home price exceeds $380,000. But wages and economic opportunity in Vermont rank below national averages. Rural charm means nothing when the nearest pharmacy is 45 minutes away, and your heating oil tank needs filling every 3 weeks. Vermont promised simple living. It delivered complicated finances that many retirees cannot survive. Number 5, Rhode Island. America's smallest state with outsized problems. Rhode Island packs a lot of financial danger into a tiny geographic footprint, and retirees are discovering that small does not mean affordable. Unemployment hovers around 5.4%, significantly above the national average, and the economy offers little for retirees seeking part-time work to supplement fixed incomes. When the job market is tight, seniors compete with younger workers for limited positions. Most lose that competition. Property taxes average $6,400 annually and keep climbing. The state's tax base is small. There simply are not enough residents and businesses to fund services without squeezing homeowners. Every budget cycle brings new pressure on property owners, and retirees on fixed incomes feel that pressure most acutely. Here is the real danger hiding in Rhode Island. The pension system is funded below 60%. That means promised benefits to state and municipal workers may not materialize. Teachers, police officers, and firefighters who served Rhode Island communities for decades face the real possibility of benefit cuts in retirement. The money simply is not there to honor all the promises made. Healthcare options are limited by the state's small size. Providence offers decent medical infrastructure, but much of Rhode Island lacks easy access to specialists and advanced care. An aging population strains resources that were barely adequate to begin with. Rhode Island promised coastal New England charm. It delivered coastal New England costs without the economy to support them. Coming in at number 4, Maine. Lobster and lighthouses attract tourists by the millions. Maine's rugged coastline and small-town atmosphere draw people seeking escape from crowded cities and suburban sprawl. The state markets itself as a haven, peaceful, beautiful, affordable compared to Boston or New York. But retirees who fall for Maine's marketing discover harsh realities that tourism brochures conveniently omit. Maine taxes Social Security benefits for those above modest income thresholds. If you saved responsibly and have retirement income above approximately $25,000 for singles or $32,000 for couples, Maine starts taking a cut of your Social Security. The benefit you earned through decades of work gets reduced by a state that claims to be retiree-friendly. Property taxes average $4,600 annually and keep climbing. Here is the statistic that should terrify every potential retiree. Maine's population is the oldest in America, with a median age of 45. That means healthcare systems are already overwhelmed by aging residents. Doctor shortages plague rural areas. Specialists require long waits or significant travel. An aging population competing for limited medical resources creates dangerous bottlenecks exactly when seniors need care most. Winters in Maine are brutal and expensive to survive. Heating oil, propane, electricity. Whatever fuel you use, you will use a lot of it for 6 months of the year. Budget $400 to $600 monthly for heating costs alone during winter months. The state postcard never shows the senior choosing between prescriptions and groceries. Maine promises escape. It delivers isolation, taxation, and medical scarcity. Number 3, Kansas. The heartland is breaking hearts. Kansas markets itself as affordable, friendly, and quintessentially American. Wide open spaces, low cost of living, traditional values. For retirees fleeing expensive coasts, Kansas seems like an obvious choice. But look closer at the data, and the dream dissolves into danger. Kansas taxes Social Security benefits starting at income levels that catch many middle-class retirees. If you were responsible enough to save beyond just Social Security, if you have a pension or 401k providing additional retirement income, Kansas taxes your Social Security payments. The state punishes financial responsibility. Property taxes rose 11% in just 4 years. That is not a one-time adjustment. That is a trend. Towns facing budget shortfalls keep hiking rates on homeowners. And Kansas offers no special protections for seniors on fixed incomes. Your tax bill grows while your retirement income stays flat. But the most dangerous trend in Kansas is healthcare collapse. The state cut funding for rural hospitals over the past decade, and 16 have closed their doors permanently. Entire counties now exist as medical deserts, places where the nearest emergency room is 60 miles or more away. Imagine having a heart attack in rural Kansas. Imagine chest pain, shortness of breath, and the terrifying realization that help is an hour away, even if the ambulance is available. This is not a hypothetical scenario. It is the daily reality for hundreds of thousands of Kansas residents. Kansas sold stability and community. It delivered abandoned hospitals and impossible distances. At number 2, West Virginia. Rock-bottom housing prices hide rock-bottom quality of life. West Virginia offers some of the cheapest real estate in America. You can buy a house for under $100,000 in many parts of the state. For retirees watching home prices in their current states soar beyond reach, West Virginia seems like an incredible bargain. There is a reason it is cheap, and the reason should terrify anyone considering retirement here. West Virginia ranks last in healthcare access. Last. Dead last in the entire United States. Hospitals have closed throughout the state. Doctors have fled to places where they can earn reasonable incomes. Specialists are concentrated in a handful of cities, leaving vast stretches of the state without adequate medical care. The state also ranks last in economic opportunity. That means if you need to supplement retirement income with part-time work, options are extremely limited. It means if your children or grandchildren want to visit, they are traveling to a place with minimal hotels, restaurants, and services. Life expectancy in West Virginia ranks near last nationally. That is not coincidence. It is the predictable outcome of inadequate healthcare, limited economic opportunity, and crumbling infrastructure. The median household income sits around $51,000, among the lowest in America. The tax base cannot support basic services. Bridges are structurally deficient. Roads are crumbling. Property might be cheap, but ambulance response times reveal the true cost. A low purchase price means nothing if emergency services cannot reach you in time. West Virginia is not affordable. It is abandoned. And, at number 1, Mississippi, the state where retirement dreams go to die. If you have watched this entire countdown, Mississippi should not surprise you. But the depth of the crisis here exceeds anything we have covered so far. Mississippi ranks dead last in healthcare, dead last in education, dead last in economic opportunity, not near the bottom, at the absolute bottom. 50th out of 50 states in virtually every measure of quality of life. Life expectancy in Mississippi is the lowest in America. Residents here die younger than anywhere else in the nation. That is not a political statement. It is a statistical reality driven by inadequate healthcare, high poverty rates, and infrastructure that cannot support basic human needs. 1 in 5 Mississippi residents lives in poverty. 20% of the population exists below the poverty line in one of the wealthiest nations in human history. The economy offers virtually nothing to retirees seeking part-time work or meaningful engagement. Hospitals are closing at alarming rates throughout the state. Rural counties have become medical deserts where the nearest emergency room might be an hour or more away. Doctors do not want to practice in Mississippi because reimbursement rates are low and the patient population is sick. The medical professionals who remain are overwhelmed and burning out. The average Social Security check of $1,800 monthly might seem adequate until reality hits. Your car breaks down and the nearest mechanic is 40 miles away, on roads the state cannot maintain. You need a prescription filled and the pharmacy closed last year. You have chest pain and the ambulance takes 45 minutes to arrive because there is only one serving 3 counties. The low cost of living is low for a reason. Mississippi has nothing left to offer. The state government is broke. The infrastructure is crumbling. The healthcare system has collapsed. Retirees who chase cheap housing discover they bought into a place where basic services are failing. This is not retirement. This is survival. And many do not survive. Outro. Your retirement is too important to gamble on the wrong state. The savings you spent 40 years building can disappear in months if you choose wrong. These 15 states have become traps for millions of Americans who did everything right. They saved. They planned. They followed the rules. And now they are struggling to survive in places that promised security and delivered financial devastation. Subscribe now And if you are watching on TV, tap your remote so you never get blindsided again.